You continue to say that our institutions are becoming less excellent, and I'm confused as to what your definition of excellence is. Is that because white males aren't necessarily, in your opinion, getting accepted as...
Well, the rules of the game are that you should be treated fairly and equally, right?
For sure.
That's an American principle.
And I agree with that completely.
Got it. So, therefore, a white male should not be treated differently than a black male.
She walked in composed, articulate, and ready for a real discussion. She'd watched the videos, picked her topics, and came prepared to take on Charlie Kirk over affirmative action and DEI. What she didn't expect, that Charlie would peel apart her argument, layer by layer, with calm precision and a brutal command of facts.
My name's Layla, and I've recently watched 3 videos of yours, Best Top 10 Charlie Kirk Debate Moments of 2024, Students Enraged That I Say College is a Scam, and 10 Unforgettable Charlie Kirk Debates That Shook 2024. And I picked 3 different topics that I think are important to me, which comes down to immigration, affirmative action, and DEI, and college is a scam. But the one I want to talk to you about the most is affirmative action and DEI. And in these videos, you have said, quote for quote, white males have high test scores, white males shouldn't have to be penalized. You did acknowledge and say that people of color come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds that do not prioritize education much. But instead of making a suggestion on how to help those communities and continue to build those communities up, you continue to say that our institutions are becoming less excellent, and I'm confused as to what your definition of excellence is. Is that because white males aren't necessarily, in your opinion, getting accepted as in a higher rate, even though they technically are, because 41% of college admitted students are of the white race?
It should be higher than that.
Based on what? Where are you getting the statistics? I just want to understand.
It's a good question. The Supreme Court did a whole case on this, and it ruled against affirmative action. And we saw the books of Harvard. So
I don't want to cut you off. May I know for future reference, so I can understand where you're coming from and get more context, could I know the Supreme Court case?
Yeah, so the name, it had 2.5 years ago. I think it was something out of California. Someone look it up. You can use Grok or ChatGPT.
If somebody could please look that up for me. Thank you.
So we saw the data out of Harvard. Harvard was the test case, and effectively approximating, but a white male had to get about a 30% higher test score to even be considered than an equivalent black student.
And when was this?
Over 30 years. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So basically, for a black student, they could do 30% worse on their standardized scores than an equivalent white student.
And you don't think that has any outside factors to do with it?
Well, that's not the point. The point is whether or not...
But how is that not the point?
Because I don't believe we should accommodate based on outside factors. You do.
This wasn't just a disagreement. It was a clash of frameworks. Isla believed excellence is subjective, something flexible based on context. Charlie, he planted a flag. Excellence is measurable. And if it takes 30% higher test scores for a white student to be considered equally, that's not equity. That's discrimination hiding behind a mission statement.
Well, I do, because I believe in progression. And I feel like you have stated in multiple of your videos, which I do have a quote.
No, fair enough. I'm just making sure we understand we disagree.
No, for sure.
I don't think we should change the rules of the game to accommodate...
What were the rules of the game?
Well, the rules of the game are that you should be treated fairly and equally, right?
For sure.
That's an American principle.
And I agree with that completely.
Got it. So, therefore, a white male should not be treated differently than a black male.
But when you come from a different...
Doesn't matter. Equal treatment or not. It's not whether or not you were said mean things when you grew up or whether your dad was a gangbanger. Doesn't matter.
Well, I'm not saying that's not the outside factors I'm talking about.
It doesn't matter what the outside factors are.
But can I explain where I'm coming from?
But understand, I'm going to finish and I'll let you talk.
Okay,
Equal treatment is regardless of any sort of sob story you could put on before it. Equal treatment. Test score, test score.
And I completely agree with that. But I also come from a predominantly white town, so I understand what you're trying to say. In my district, we have so much funding, and I live in the Florida Keys, so there's a lot of funding that comes to my school. And you can drive 30 miles north and you end up in Homestead, where they have a fraction of the funding that we have, and they don't have as much of the same testing instructors and people to help them, and have as much of the same outside resources. And then you can keep going another 30 miles and you end up in Miami, where all the private schools are, and they get even more funding than where I come from, and not that obviously I ended up where I am today because I continue to push through, and I didn't let any outside factors affect me. But at the end of the day, I kept going, and some people don't have that same ability, and I also
it doesn't. Again, first of all, in Florida, every public school gets the same amount of money. Okay, there's an equal funding across the board.
But you also get donations from the people in your
community. Fair enough, but Florida has.
And I know for a fact that my community gets many donations.
Florida has the most. You could use equitable funding structure of any school, and has universal school choice basically. So that's number one. Number two.
She played the empathy card, and it sounded good. But Charlie didn't reject her compassion. He dismantled her premise. Florida already has equal funding and school choice. The inequality she described wasn't systemic, it was local. And that means you fix the schools, not rig the admissions. Powerful moment.
Why, when we're admitting people for a job, should it just be what's on that piece of paper, or should race play into the factor?
So I know that your argument is mediocrity. I forgot. I don't really.
Mediocrity.
Okay, yeah, and I know that, and I also believe in quotas as well. But I don't think that it should be one and one, but they should go hand in hand. Because at the end of the day, if I have just as good as a resume as somebody next to me, I wanna understand where you're getting that jobs are just taking people because they're a woman, because they are black. I just want to see. And I understand what you're trying to say because of course, with affirmative action and DEI, that does give them an upper hand. But where does it say that you take somebody just because of that color?
All over the place. Capitol Street Partners back in the summer of 2022 said that they will not hire white men for internships. That's one example of thousands I could give.
But because of how many people are in there, how many people in position?
Because they wanted to be. Again, that's irrelevant. It does not matter if you have an internship and everyone is a white man. If they're all qualified, that's great. It doesn't matter if they're all Asian or all black. It should be what merit qualification gets the people into that position.
And of course, but if this school only wanted white people to attend.
No.
Now we're in the real world. This isn't theory, it's policy in action. Charlie gives a crystal clear example. Capitol Street Partners rejecting white male interns. Isla tried to wave it off, but this wasn't an outlier. It was the logical result of the DI mindset. Check the boxes, skip the merit.
Good, excellent qualified people. And if they end up majority white, who cares? Why does that matter?
I don't think that matters. I'm saying that affirmative action.
No, you are saying it matters.
I'm saying that, but I'm not saying for the white male or the black race or the Asian race or the Indian race, or understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that it works in favor for any race and any sex. It works, and it does 1,000%, and I don't understand where you're getting that information.
It is anti-white racism that was in the fiber of our laws that is now getting away thanks to President Donald Trump, where if you were a white man, especially to apply for internships, jobs, going to college, that it was significantly harder to get those jobs, to get into those practices, because there were quotas that made it easier for people of other skin colors with lower standards to be able to get those positions. We agree there's only so many slots in a college, right? There's only so many positions in an internship. It's a limited supply.
I completely agree.
It is scarcity. So when you have a scarce resource, you have to decide how you're going to divvy up that scarce resource.
For sure.
In a DEI model, they're going to say, okay, we're not going to do any more than 30% white, and then we'll do 15%. And so you kind of come up with these quotas. Therefore, they end up saying, well, what happens if the 15% black is not qualified? They don't care, which ends up happening far too often. Or what happens if the
Can you give me examples of cases?
Yeah, air traffic control is actually a really good example. We now have all the documents that show that we went on a hiring spree to have more black air traffic controllers. There's a huge lawsuit about this, 15, 16, 17, where the standards for air traffic control dropped so dramatically, and you're kind of seeing some of the effects of that potentially. And again, it's in almost every single corporate practice, every single college institution. But it just kind of comes down to more of a moral argument that I have, which is that
this was the turning point. When Charlie brought up the FAA lowering standards for diversity hires, the tone shifted. We weren't just talking about feelings, we were talking about lives. DI wasn't just unfair, it was reckless. And the student knew it. Her arguments slowed. Her tone softened. The data was landing.
If you have something based on merit, I don't care if it's all black, all Asian, all white. It's an excellent group is what I want, not a diverse group. I care about excellence, not diversity. Because I do not believe diversity is a strength. I believe unity is a strength. I believe the pursuit of higher purposes is a strength. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do understand where you're coming from. I feel like I do agree with some of the things that you did just say, and I may have to do some more research on the things that you said before.
In the end, this wasn't a blowout. It was something rarer, a respectful public loss. Isla came with confidence. She left with questions. And that's the power of Charlie's approach. He doesn't just argue. He reveals. He exposed the hidden costs of equity, lower standards, racial preferences, and policies that punish merit in the name of progress. He didn't reject diversity, but he refused to worship it. He didn't belittle her background, but he refused to bend the truth. And when he said unity is a strength, not diversity, it wasn't just a line. It was the core of his message. Don't lower the ceiling. Raise the floor. Don't divide by race. Compete by excellence. This wasn't just a win. It was a masterclass. If you liked this video, then please like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. Have a great day and see you in the next one.